Reading. These days, everyone wants to optimize their reading, read faster, read more, and I'm no different. So that led me to this one goal. I want to become a better reader. So I searched far and wide for the best reading tips. And today, I'm going to share the best tips that I found in just 8 minutes. The problem is that we're taught how to read all wrong. Let me ask you, how many books have you read, but you can't remember what the it was about? How many times have you tried to take notes or even worked with stickies only to find that you never looked at it again, or you ended up throwing them in the recycling bin? How many times have you started books and got distracted and never finished? Do you ever feel anxious because you didn't want to highlight everything and you don't want to reread the book? And school honestly made me hate reading completely. I was taught that I need to read front to back, flip some pages, and just passively glance my eyes across the page just to get by for my 10-page book report. And that was the problem. The point of reading isn't to flip through some pages just to tell our friends that we read a book just for our ego, but it's really to apply the knowledge to our own lives. So I decided to search the best tips far and wide on the internet and really share the best tips with you that I found. And no, you won't need to learn how to speed read or anything like that. So let's dive into it. Step 1, filter the books that you read. One of the major problems with reading is that we read way too many books indiscriminately. There's over 2,700 books being published every single day in the US. And according to Google search, the most accurate thing out there, it takes almost 5.5 hours to read 200 pages for the average person. So there's no way that we can read everything. So what's the solution? We should skim. Let's take Naval Ravikant, a famous entrepreneur and investor. He says,
and the reality is I would rather read the best 100 books over and over again until I absorb them rather than read all the books. There's a lot of nonsense in books out there too. So I don't read anymore to complete books. I read to satisfy my genuine intellectual curiosity.
What I like to do is set an intention of why I read a book. It's usually 1, solve a specific problem, 2, explore new ideas, 3, just for fun. I don't overthink this, but it gives me a good idea of why I'm reading in the first place. Step 2, use a book summary app to see if a book is actually worth reading in the first place. Have you ever picked up a book that looked really good on Amazon, got to page maybe 25 and was like, oh my God, this book is a waste of time? It was when this happened enough where I wanted to know, how do you know if a book is actually worth reading in the first place? Back in the day, I used to Google free book summaries that gave me the high level of a book, but honestly, the quality of these book summaries are all over the place. More recently, I've been using a book summary app like Blinkist or Shortform, and read the 1-page summary of the book just to see if it's personally worth my time. I actually use Shortform, which I'll leave a link of my review and an affiliate link in the description. But basically, if it's a non-fiction book, I like going over the big ideas first. It helps me decide, should I read this now? Should I read this later? Or should I just completely pass on it? Either way, it saves me wasted time from a book that won't benefit me and optimize my reading time when I do commit to a book. Step number 3, read the physical book while listening to audiobook at 2x. The problem with a lot of speed reading tips is that it takes a lot of time to build this skill. And if you're anything like me, you don't have time to take a gym quick speed reading course. And if you try to speed read, you'll be a few pages in and wonder, what the heck did I just read? But I think there are a few things that we can actually take from speed reading. Here's a few hacks. 1, I'll set a timer for 30 minutes. I'll skim the book to find the most interesting parts. I'll read the physical book and the audiobook at 2x, and I use my finger to trace a line. As Naval Ravikant says, the number of books completed is the vanity metric. As you know more, you leave more books unfinished. Focus on new concepts. Step 4, use Notion and Readwise to capture highlights. So I'm a millennial, and there was a time before the internet where everything was pen and paper. I used to take notes, but I would always lose them, and I would find myself never looking at them ever again. That's when I started to use Notion to keep everything in one place. It wasn't until I took Ali Abdal's part-time YouTuber Academy where I found out about Readwise from Ali himself. It's an integration app that brings together books, articles, tweets, and podcasts, and brings all the highlights from these books in one place. Think about it as having your own database or library. Readwise can integrate all your highlights from your Kindle or even scan physical books with the page numbers and just put them on your Notion board. It's an easy way to get the highlights or quotes without reading the whole book all over again. And I'll also leave an affiliate link below if you want to check that out. Step 5, take better notes. While having a database of highlights is cool and all, is still pretty passive. And if you're anything like me, you'll want to capture everything, which defeats the purpose of smart notes. Not gonna lie, I would find myself highlighting almost the whole book. It wasn't until I watched Elizabeth's video, Become a Better Reader in 8 Minutes, where she covered the essentials of note-taking. And yes, I took her video and remixed her idea. Thanks, Elizabeth. According to Elizabeth, the purpose of notes is an opportunity for us to do a thought exercise, opportunity for us to have a discussion, an opportunity for us to create something, think about something, change, have a new learning point. She captures 3 things. 1, first impressions. 2, quotations. 3, actionable takeaways. And to solve the problem of highlighting the whole book, what she does is take the top 10 highlights and thinks, how can I apply this to my everyday life? If you think about the purpose of notes, it's to force active thinking and create an experience with these books firsthand. And when we have an emotional experience, we're more likely to remember it. Step 6, read a chapter by chapter book review. Sometimes I'll forget what I read, and that's where these in-depth chapter summaries really come into play. You can Google book summary for a free review, or like I said earlier, you can subscribe to something like short form and use their full book guide. Not only does it help with the clear takeaway of books, but there's also exercises or questions at the end of each chapter to help me integrate these lessons into my every single day life. Having the book summary also relieves the anxiety of having to take all the notes as well. I can be more immersed in the book. Step 7, apply it to your real life. How many of us seek advice but are resistant to applying it? I'm guilty of this. Reading is the fun part. It helps us feel like we're doing something without doing anything, but this is dangerous. There's this saying that knowledge is power, but the real power, it's applied knowledge. For example, the other day I was listening to the Almanac of Naval Ravikant on meditation. He talks about,
I recommend meditating 1 hour each morning because anything less is not enough time to really get deep into it. I would recommend, if you really want to try meditation, try 60 days of 1 hour a day. First thing in the morning. You will have resolved a lot of issues, or you have heard them enough to see through those fears and issues.
At first I was like, got it, meditation's important, but it didn't hit me. How often do I really meditate? So now I actually block out an hour of meditation every single day. And after a few days of meditation, I found myself feeling a lot more clearer, more stable with my emotions. It was only then when I actually reread the book where I understood what Naval meant by meditation's intermittent fasting for the mind. It was only because I experienced it firsthand. If you're interested in books, I actually share a lot of my book recommendations broken down in a free newsletter, which I'll link below. Also, if you're interested in book summary apps, I have a full review here on YouTube too on short form, which you can watch. Stay compassionate, stay authentic, stay rebellious. Peace.